It is without a doubt that Cookie Run as a series leans quite heavily on myths, legends, and the fantastical for its inspiration and world building. Science fiction and space-adjacent themes are few and far between. The Sugar Nova Odyssey storyline mostly falls into the realms of science fiction, and with the recent updates, I figured why not cover it, since it is a very interesting storyline and I find it to be quite underrated. This storyline revolves around a group known as the Nova Cookies. Long ago, a supernova exploded a giant star candy, splitting it into pieces. The fragments scattered, and the biggest fragments became 4 planets of sugar substitutes. Each planet pursued their own values, and the cookies who were destined to embody said values became the leader of their respective planets, known as the Nova Cookies. The 4 planets correspond to 4 Nova Cookies: Xylitol Nova Cookie, Stevia Nova Cookie, Allulose Nova Cookie, and Aspartame Nova Cookie. The story actually starts with Astronaut Cookie, the captain of the Apollo, on a space exploration mission with her crew. Oh, and Space Donut's here too. The goal of their space expedition is to locate an evacuation signal they detected from outer space, as well as bring Space Donut home. Unfortunately, they encountered a black hole. The strong gravity prevented them from escaping the pole, and had to use the escape pod. However, only one could be used, as all of their fuel was spent prior, and thus only Astronaut and Space Donut got away, and Astronaut had to watch her crew getting devoured by the black hole. The two continued to follow the signal until they found Planet Xylitol, a planet leading in sugar substitute sciences and technology, whose leader is Xylitol Nova Cookie. As it turns out, sugar is incredibly rare in space, making Earth bread, where it is most abundant, the sweetest planet in the cosmos. Planet Xylitol's core value is knowledge and truth, and thus that is what Xylitol Nova himself represents. Planet Xylitol is the most technologically advanced of the 4 Novasys planets. It is populated by robots and cyborgs. The planet itself is almost entirely devoid of organic life forms. Being mechanical in nature, the cookies here have special enhancements to assist them with various tasks. Also, they're able to easily transfer information, which enables for a society of incredible researchers. Most of the labor-intensive jobs are handled by robots, and so nobody is forced to work, but they willingly contribute to their society. They see Xylitol Nova as their leader not out of worship, but genuine admiration, given how much he cares for the people. It's unclear how different the Planet Xylitol cookies are to Earthbread cookies. What we do know is that they do have a variety of foods made from sugar substitutes, and they do sleep to rest and recharge. The people of Planet Xylitol not only have access to advanced tech for simple everyday use like self-driving taxis, robot dogs, filming drones, etc., but also their entire planet is sustained with an artificial sun. That's right, their planet is just a floating isolated cluster that has the original star piece at its core, not orbiting any stars, so they just made one. Apparently, that is an energy source in of itself, because it would be later used to power their massive ship. Oh, did I mention that they also have several barriers to protect themselves from extraterrestrial objects? Astronaut and Space Donut arrived at Planet Xylitol. They were warmly welcomed and spent a few days getting to know the planet, the people, exchange knowledge, and discuss the black hole, as Xylitol Nova have been observing it for quite some time. Although they have extraordinarily advanced technology, it is still uncertain whether they could face that threat. Therefore, Xylitol Nova worked with several researchers to build a ship that could evacuate the entire population, which was part of a plan that was immediately forced into operation as the black hole got closer to the planet than anyone could have expected. Xylitol Nova was more than willing to risk his own life to make sure that everyone got onto the ship. Robots, cyborgs, even if they could be rebuilt, they are still family. And thankfully, they barely managed to escape as the black hole devoured Planet Xylitol whole. Generations of research and work all gone, and now they're left to try and get as far away from the black hole as possible, which leads them to their next destination, Planet Stevia. Planet Stevia is blessed with serene nature and is most teeming with organic life compared to the other sugar substitute planets. This actually makes sense since IRL Stevia is 200 to 400 times sweeter than cane sugar, not by percentage, but multitude. Still, Planet Stevia can hardly compare to Earth Bread, the sweetest planet in the cosmos. Originally, Planet Stevia and Planet Xylitol were relatively close to one another compared to the other two Nova-Sys planets. Because of such, Xylitol Nova frequently visited Stevia Nova and even sent specially made machinery to help with agriculture. However, over time, the two planets slowly drift away from one another, and Planet Stevia eventually started to orbit its current star. Long ago, the four Novas held regular meetings, but as their planets drift apart, so were communications cut. Can you call this a planet? Like Planet Xylitol, Planet Stevia is more like several landmasses that's just barely attached to the original chunk of star candy that broke off. Their main source of food are prism plants, with prism flowers having the highest concentration of stevia. Because of Planet Stevia's fertile land and abundance of life, the planet welcomed alien immigrants from all over. Therefore, the types of life forms that inhabit Planet Stevia is quite diverse. At least that's how Xylitol Nova remembered it. As for the present day, for this next part, I'd advise any physicists to turn away because, Alright, here's what's going on. As the Xylitol spaceship arrived, they realized that the sun is way too close to the planet and the intense solar winds constantly blasting at it is no good. I was gonna go on a rant about how absurdly old the Novas are by estimating how far Planet Stevia would have to move and then how close it would have to get to its current star to begin orbiting it and how long all of that would take. But as it turns out, calculating the movements of planets is extremely difficult, and as someone who sucks at physics, just 5 minutes of googling told me that it would be for absolutely nothing because the story itself follows zero logic, and the more I dig, the more I want it to shut down. So don't think too hard, it's fiction. Anyways, Xylitol's ship landed while avoiding the solar winds and not having the ship literally melt. Trying to grasp the confusing situation, Xylitol and a few others made their way to the sanctuary, where most of the remaining residents of Planet Stevia is staying as conditions have become too harsh for them to go outside. It seems that Stevia has set up a strict religion around herself with rules, ceremonies, and ancient texts. The key thing is that no one is allowed to leave the sanctuary, as well as many other strict rules that dictate in detail how the people should live, and punishment shall befall those who violate. Stevia would regularly go on meditative journeys and bring back prism flowers from the scorching desert, the region thought to be devoid of life. Almost everyone obeys the rules she set without question and believes her to be their savior, a god that brings miracles. But this life-granting goddess facade could not fool Xylitol Nova. Even though Stevia Nova's special power allowed her to amplify and accelerate the growth of plants, the Novas cannot create life, not even Stevia. Nothing about her is the same as he remembered, from her appearance to her mannerism. Even as a viewer, it's clear that this is not the Stevia who was so selfless that constantly made Xylitol worry. This is not the Stevia who would ask for help no matter what. This is not the Stevia that Xylitol calls family. As time went on, it becomes more evident that she's hiding the true nature of the disaster, even as the situation kept getting worse and worse. No matter how much Xylitol tried to pry, she wouldn't even talk to him like a normal person. Eventually, when Stevia was caught collecting prism flowers while on her journey in the desert, she finally confessed. A while back, the black hole's gravity was slowly pulling Planet Stevia closer to its sun, while the spatial warp also caused intense solar winds. Stevia noticed the black hole and feared that it would spot her planet. She was left with two options: either slowly wither under the sun's flares, or be immediately consumed by the black hole should it find the planet. So she used her powers to amplify the solar winds, hoping that it would conceal her planet. The plan worked. The black hole was out of sight, but the solar winds eventually got out of control, and Stevia could not move her planet further out. Moreover, countless citizens had already lost their lives trying to collect prism plants in the desert. Thus, she set up a religion centered around herself, created a facade to shoulder every bit of responsibility as atonement. After much consolidation, they finally came to resolve the tension, and Stevia opened up to her people. With the help from the Nutsters, they carried a large quantity of prism flower seeds to be put into a special seed vault Xylitol Nova built, which should help with the food problem. Now, no one has to danger themselves by going out into the desert. However, the planet is still extremely close to the Sun and isn't entirely safe. For reference, when seen from Mercury, our Sun is only about 2.5 times larger than on Earth. It could be that planet Stevia's star is smaller, but that doesn't matter because anything being this close to a star should have burned up to nothing but a molten space rock. Again, let's not dig too deep into the technicality of things, for fiction's sake, and for my sanity. Also because I don't actually know anything about astrophysics. Up to the present, planet Stevia is the only planet that has managed to avoid the black hole problem, somewhat, which is rather fortunate because it is the most defenseless out of the 4 nova planets. Keyword was. In the news story, she has asked for assistance to modify the agriculture bots for other purposes. Moving on from physics-breaking narrative, before leaving, they received signals from some familiar friends. Turns out, the Apollo's final distress signal was received, and CASA agents, as well as a few others, are now along for the ride. Xylitol Nova intends on informing the other 2 novas about the black hole, but before he could, he received a formal invitation from Alulos Nova. Alulos Nova is quite unique compared to the other 2 novas we've known so far. Alulos Nova is the mighty empress of planet Alulos. Alulos Nova's empire is utmost radiant amongst the galaxy, as she herself lives for conquest. Her ultimate goal is to have the universe bow down to her, and the Alulos empire will stand above all by any means necessary. Fittingly, she is constantly surrounded by riches, entertainments, and delights to no end. Her greed is bottomless. Nonetheless, she still sincerely appreciates the other novas, as they are her family, and they get along quite well. Alulos Nova's special ability is called Hive Mind, which she can use to form and command a swarm. All those who fall under the Hive Mind's influence have their mind merge with the collective, and all shall act according to the will of the Empress. Thanks to this ability, her people would not question her authority, and she is able to lead her army with ease. Alulos Nova's thirst of conquest is, of course, backed by a formidable armada. Alulos herself is also a great tactician. With the looming threat of the black hole, Alulos intends on combining the strength of her military with planet Xylitol's advanced technology to take down the black hole, as it somehow developed the ability to use the devoured planet Xylitol's barrier. They reached an agreement and decided on a rehearsal, but the real black hole approached and they were forced to initiate an emergency warp. It was then that Alulos revealed that she was simply testing her theory that the black hole was pursuing Astronaut Cookie. After it devoured Astronaut's crew, the black hole got a taste of real sweet sugar, and thus it chased the escape pod and went after planet Xylitol, according to Alulos' theory. So, she intended on using Astronaut as bait for the black hole as a part of her plan. She also found that the black hole once fell under the Hive Mind's influence after consuming several of her troops. So, her true plan is to control the black hole, and turn it into her own weapon of conquest. But Xylitol was not about to let her use astronaut as bait. Here, it is safe to conclude that the black hole either copies or absorbs whatever property of the thing it consumes. That's why when it arrived at planet Xylitol after having consumed the Apollo, the black hole's form was unlike anything in their database. Theory: it is likely that the black hole gained heightened sentience after consuming the Apollo. I'm saying that because the black hole became noticeably more aggressive after that event. Of course, this is just a theory. But I still stand by this, as the black hole was observed to be simply consuming planets and stars for a long time, way back when the novas were still communicating. This time, its pursuits feel intentional. Most recklessly though, Allulose Nova plans to sacrifice planet Allulose itself to the black hole. Helios Honey, the Empress's right-hand man, opposed this plan, and thus he was banished and subsequently had aboard the Xylitol ship. Everyone is concerned. Should Allulose Nova's plan fail, they hardly have a safe escape route. But she executed her plan anyway. The black hole swallowed the planet in a flash, then seemingly obeyed her command and lowered its barrier just before... Allulose Nova Cookie was devoured by the black hole. Unfortunately, her greed was her own undoing. The black hole then commanded the remaining citizens of planet Allulose to be consumed, bringing themselves to their deaths, sparing only soldiers that was under its control. The disturbing events did not end there. The Xylitol ship picked up an unknown signal. It came from the black hole, and it started speaking, using speech patterns of Xylitol and the voice of Allulose. We then learn that it is indeed alive, fueled by an insatiable hunger, and as declared, it will keep consuming planets, stars, pursue the greatest sources of power until nothing remains, and at the end, it shall devour the sweetest planet in the cosmos. The only citizen left alive and free by almost pure chance is Helios Honey. The distance between the ship and the black hole was enough to be out of the hive mind's reach. Now, having exhausted all plausible options, they chart course to planet Aspartame, whose core value is destruction. Should this last hope fail them, and the black hole attain this planet's power, the fate of the cosmos is in peril. All we can do now is wait as the story unfolds. That is most of what we know of this storyline, but I do want to discuss a few things. According to Xylitol's hypothesis, if there is a black hole that sucked everything in, there should be another hole that spat everything out. However, this possibility was never brought up again, but knowing Cookie Run, they should end their story on a high note, so we'll see. Second, planet drifting. Again, this is just meant to discuss the Nova's age and that they could be some of the oldest beings we know, but then again, fiction abides by no logic. The next destination is planet Aspartame. We know almost nothing about this place. One thing though, it is implied that Aspartame Nova may not have the greatest relationship with the others, according to one line from Xylitol Nova. As I've mentioned, planet Aspartame embraces destruction. No, not that kind of destruction. That'd be even more terrifying. It's likely that we'll get one update on planet Aspartame, and at least one update that will lead to the finale, like with the dragon storyline. We'll see. The Sugar Nova Odyssey is pretty novel for the series, and as it develops, it just becomes more insane and terrifying. Cosmic horror was not something I expected the series to explore, but color me impressed. I like it a lot. All the insane physics aside, I think the Sugar Nova Odyssey stories are incredibly underrated. I think it's just because it's disconnected from the main lore on Earthbread, so most don't pay too much attention to it. But genuinely, I find the stories, the characters, they're great. And it's got a lot of scenes and dialogues that just hit really hard. I'd say my favorite was Stevia's arc. I definitely recommend you check out the story. It's all available here on YouTube. And that's all I got for now. What do you think about the Sugar Nova Odyssey stories? Let me know down below. As always, I hope you've enjoyed and that you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my channel for more cookie run, and I'll see y'all later. Bye bye!